Oh, Elgin, you sweet, sweet summer child. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to talk about the wasted potential of Elgin, because if you've been anywhere near the From subreddit or X or wherever since the finale, you know exactly what people are saying, that Elgin made the dumbest decision in history of this show, and that he, in a sense, had it coming, that confronting Sophia about that photo was the character assassination of a man who was already on thin ice after what he did to Fatima. I think all of it is wrong. Not partially wrong, but completely wrong. Because when you actually walk through this character's arc, beginning to end, you don't find an idiot. You find the only person in 4 seasons of this show who's died living by his own stated creed. You find a setup the writers spent 3 seasons building and then threw it away in a back room of the diner, essentially. This isn't just a death that made people mad. This is wasted potential. And on this channel, we know exactly what to do with that based off of the other examples that are on this channel, which if you haven't seen, be sure to get subscribed and subscribed in general, because 84% of you guys are not subscribed, and that is a crazy statistic. It really goes a long way for me. But anyway, today we're going deep. We're going into Elgin, we're exploring this character because there is just a lot there that I feel like could have been explored more but wasn't, and the foundation is exactly what we're going to be talking about in this video. This video is sponsored by Manta Sleep, and honestly, this is the most natural sponsor that I could have ever asked for. If you know me in my personal life, you know the tiniest little things will mess with my sleep. I've been wearing different eye masks, and I've been trying to find one that actually blocks out all the light. Most of the ones that I've tried before do not work in that way. That was before I found Manta Sleep, though. One of my favorite things about it is the eye cups themselves are completely contoured and adjustable, so there's zero pressure on your eyes, and if they don't fit exactly how you want them, you could just take the Velcro off and move it around. It's actually super comfortable, and it genuinely does block out everything, the way those cushions sit. And the best part is, I just put it to the real test because I flew to Italy a few weeks ago. It was a very bright cabin because it wasn't a red eye, but I had just gotten the mask and I put it on, and for the first time ever, I actually slept on a plane. That is something I would have dreamed of years ago. I'll leave the link right in my description, or you could use my code Jerry's Takes for 10% off. That is just all one word, Jerry's Takes, for 10% off. Thank you very much, Manta Sleep, for sponsoring this portion of the video and being honestly the most natural sponsor I could imagine, because I genuinely love your product. Now back to it. So with that, let's start where Elgin started. On the Grand Rapids bus. We get teased of it in the end of season 1, but season 2, episode 1 is where it picks off, because Sheriff Boyd is at the bottom of a well. The town is at the time leaderless, and a commuter bus by Bacta rolls past the fallen tree. And before anything happens, before a single monster shows up, before anyone even knows where they are, one passenger already knows that something is wrong. Elgin doesn't react to the town. He reacts to the idea of the town before it's shown him literally anything. He tries to stop the bus, and when Randall grabs him, his body does what his mind can't articulate. He gets violently ill and throws up all over Randall. It's actually the thing in the moment that halts the bus to a stop in Fromville. Now think about every other arrival in the series. The Matthews family drives in twice, oblivious both times. Boyd's family oblivious as well. Jade oblivious. Acosta rides in on an ambulance shooting at the shadows and ends up hitting someone, of course. But the point I'm making is nobody in 4 seasons senses this place coming except Elgin. And the show doubles down on it immediately. In episode 2, when the survivors regroup in Victor's cargo truck, it's Elgin who describes the bus arriving, an arrival nobody else witnessed. The show is going out of its way 2 episodes in a row to tell you that this man is tuned into something. Then there's the water. From his earliest scenes, Elgin is talking about a lake from his dreams. Before he ever got there, he explained that he had seen this lake, and he had dreamed of this town. He even dreamed of drowning. I think that is a very, very important detail, and we're going to come back to it eventually, but I do want you to remember that for now. And then in season 2, episode 7, Julie tells Elgin a bath might help him relax, and in that bathtub, a music box plays, and a ghostly old woman, the woman this fandom would later come to know as the Kimono Woman, shoves his head under the water and tries to drown him. Oh, and I'm sitting here to edit this right now. Why was Elgin bathing with clothes on, with pajamas on? Who does that? And the important thing here is Elgin is the first. Before Kenny's dream burn, before the cicadas, before Paula dies screaming the nursery rhyme in her sleep, the entire back half of season 2, this whole sleep and water threat that ends with Julie, Randall, and Marielle changed to a wall in a dream dungeon, all of it announces itself through Elgin's bathtub. He's kind of like the catalyst, if you will. And when the residents finally start comparing notes, which honestly they do quite a little bit of, they don't do enough of that in the show, Elgin's near drowning is one of the shared music box dreams. He even dreams of the boy in white reciting the rhyme. It goes beyond the town attacking Elgin. The town is literally talking to him. Now, put that next to the show's other receivers. Sarah hears voices. Julie walks through the story itself. Tabitha carries memories of past lives. That's the tier the show placed Elgin in. The conduit tier. The characters the town has a direct line to. That's the biggest entry on this list we're building today. The show spent an entire season constructing Elgin as a receiver, someone this place knew before he arrived, and then never told us why. Fatima literally says in episode 4 that she's worried Elgin isn't adjusting. He was never going to adjust. He wasn't built to adjust. He was built to hear this place, and it's something that the show just doesn't really take advantage of. Okay, but before we get to the Cellar, and yes, we're going to be talking about the Cellar, I just need to bring this up and address this, because the case against Elgin starts in season 3 as if season 2 didn't happen, and season 2 absolutely happened. Episode 6, a fight over hoarded food breaks out between Elgin and Dale, and Ellis catches a blade in the side. His chest cavity is filling with pressure, and he's dying right there on the floor of Colony House, and someone has to go get the van. At night, in this town, where stepping outside after dark has been an automatic death sentence for the entire run of the show. It's Elgin who goes, the newcomer, the guy who's been here a few weeks, who got attacked in a bathtub, who has every reason to be the most terrified person in the building. He runs into the dark for a man he barely knows, and Ellis lives because of it. And I want to be annoyingly specific about the next one because it's the single most underrated contribution this entire show has had. When Boyd and Christy cut open the dead Smiley, they find that glowing bile, and the idea of turning that bile into a weapon, the silver bullets that Boyd carries in the season 2 endgame, that was Elgin's suggestion. Episode 9 shows Boyd at the RV fashioning silver bullets from the creature's bile exactly as Elgin proposed. The first genuinely offensive tool humanity ever develops in this entire nightmare traces directly back to the man that this fandom in general calls useless. And then there's the scene that I would argue is the emotional key to his entire character, and it happens in episode 5 with Sarah in the church. And as you guys know, Sarah's at the time, no one liked her, no one was for her. She was the one who murdered her own brother, for Christ's sake. And Elgin sits down with her, and they start bonding over the people they've lost, and he extends grace to the one person in town that nobody will touch. And when she confesses what she did to Nathan, he recoils because he's not naive about evil, but he saw her first. This bond gets paid off twice, but one of them costs him his eye, which we're gonna get to. But brave enough to run into the dark, sharp enough to invent the silver bullet, kind enough to sit with Sarah. That is the baseline the show established from the beginning with his character. One full season of it occurred too. So when people tell you Elgin's story is the story of a weak, gullible man, understand that they're starting the tape at the halfway point. The show gave you the good man first on purpose, because what happens next only means something if he was good. So We have to talk about it. We have to talk about the Cellar. I'm not going to sugarcoat this because pretending this arc didn't happen is exactly how you lose an argument about Elgin. In season 3, Elgin tells Fatima her baby isn't really hers. He feeds her his own blood. He lures her into a root cellar, and when she tries to leave, he keeps her there. He imprisons a pregnant woman and insists the entire time that he's protecting her. It's horrifying, and it's meant to be horrifying. But the real question of this that doesn't really get brought up a lot, I mean, it does here and there, but the real question is, what was standing behind Elgin while he did that? The Kimono Woman, the same entity that tried to drown him in a bathtub in season 2, is still in his head in the season 3 premiere. The show shows you in episode 1 of that season that this man is being worked on, and by the time Fatima is in the cellar, the Kimono Woman isn't just haunting Elgin's nightmares, she's physically there, pinning Fatima down when she tries to escape, carrying that thing Fatima birthed down through the trap door. And season 4 spells it out clearly. In episode 4, Sarah sits with Elgin in the church and asks him directly whether the Kimono Woman leaves him alone now because he did what she asked. That's not subtext, that's the show telling you Elgin was an instrument.
They could be miles off course. That's impossible. They're on instruments.
Which brings up the inevitable comparison. From has ran into this exact same story before, and the fandom's reaction was completely different to it. I think you probably know where I'm going with this. Sarah, she heard voices. Those voices told her that terrible things were necessary to get everyone home, and she murdered her own brother and almost killed Ethan in the process. Mind you, Ethan's a child. And season 4 confirms on the screen that the entity manipulating her all along was the man in yellow. In response, Sarah got a 3-season redemption arc. Sarah is, by season 4, one of the most beloved characters on the show, despite her not being really used in season 4, but honestly, it's deservedly so. So explain the difference to me. The town's machinery whispered to Sarah and she killed. The town's machinery whispered to Elgin and he imprisoned. And he forced her to give birth. And he forced Fatima, I should say, to give birth. It really is the same playbook. It's the same puppeteer we now know. And look at what it took to break him. In season 3's finale, Boyd's group tortures Elgin for Fatima's location. And look what it took to break him. Severe torture. Not even just by Boyd. Boyd was the start of it, but by Sarah in a very crazy way, where he loses his eye. Obviously, you're gonna talk under that sort of thing. I mean, you lost a fucking eye. You don't want to die. But, I mean, honestly, he was trying to do the right thing. That's just the whole point I'm trying to get at. Even the show's own moral compass agrees with this sort of thing. Christy stitching up Elgin's wounds in the season 4 premiere says everything, because she explains that at one point she probably would have thought he was an awful person, but now she believes that the township does bad things to good people. And then she says the line that should have ended this entire discourse: something lied to you. And notice who else the show puts on Elgin's side of the ledger? Acosta. A cop, a total outsider with no history and no bias whatsoever, and her first read on the situation is that torturing this kid made Boyd the monster. When the show hands that line to its freshest set of eyes, it's telling you the morality here is not as clean as the subreddit wants it to be. And then it continues in season 4, episode 2, when Boyd confronts Elgin and they talk this out. Boyd explains to Elgin that the truth of what happened between the two of them could tear the whole town apart. So Elgin will say he lost his eyes searching for Fatima, and if he doesn't play along, Boyd will tell everyone that Elgin killed Tilly and put him in the box. And as you know, Fatima killed Tilly. We watched it happen in season 3, episode 7, and Boyd knew this very clearly. He even shielded it. And Elgin, in response to all of this, just simply says that the truth will get out. I really do think that's kind of like the thesis statement for his final arc in this season. And ledger entry number 2, the show constructed a perfect mirror. Sarah and Elgin, the two people that have been manipulated the most by this town. It even staged the reconciliation, and then it just killed one of them, changing the trajectory of that. Because here's the part that actually makes me angry, as someone who is a big fan of this show, as you guys know. Season 4 was quietly having one of the best redemption arcs that the show had displayed up to this point. They had wrote it, it was working, and then they just got rid of it. Starting the premiere, one eye's gone, the whole town knows something happened, even if Boyd's cover story is muddying that, and Elgin's response isn't bitterness or denial. He tells Christy the baby's birth was supposed to take them all home, and that things may still work out. This is a shattered man still reaching for meaning. The show wants you to see the wreckage and the reaching. Then episode 3 gives us the scene that should be in every conversation about this character. Late at night, Fatima, his victim, walks into the kitchen and finds him there. He offers to leave, she tells him it's not necessary, and she asks if he's alright, and Elgin says that he isn't certain that he deserves to be. There's no excuses or even him blaming the Kimono Woman. It's just a man carrying the full weight of what his hands did, whether or not his will was driving them. And what does Fatima do? She sits down next to him, tells him she doesn't blame him, and asks for his help. And Elgin becomes the quiet engine of the Gollum storyline. Carton after carton of clay hauled up to that room so the woman who he had wronged can build the thing that makes her feel strong again. That's what his penance looks like. It's not like a speech. It's just straight service done in silence for the exact person he hurt at her request. And episode 4 is when the church scene happens between Elgin and Sarah, and they're talking where they had first met. And the two of them, the woman who took his eye and the man who held captive Fatima, sit together and compare scars. They're two survivors of the same evil working out what survival means. If this video had like a thesis scene, this is definitely it. The show puts its two manipulated souls in a church and had them minister to each other, and nobody clipped it. Nobody's talking about it because it doesn't fit the story the fandom decided to tell about Elgin. And then episode 7, the scene that reframes everything that follows. Julie, grieving her father, lashes out. She asks if getting mutilated was part of God's plan. It's a knife of a question, and Elgin doesn't flinch. He calmly tells her that the township wins when people can no longer believe the truth, even when it stares them in the face. I think this is very important and something that we have to remember. And the same episode when Sophia's reanimated corpse puppet breaks into Colony House and every other person in that building freezes or runs, Elgin is the one to end it with the totems. The night terrors of season 4 come for Colony House, and the man of faith with one eye is the one who acts. This follows a similar trend to what he did when he saved Elgin back in season 2 all over again. It's the same sort of thing. The show bookended him. Terror strikes and everyone freezes, but Elgin moves. Honestly, that is just not how you write a coward or a fool. That's how you write a hero whose armor happens to be belief instead of a badge. So now it's episode 9. The whole town is mobilizing for the tunnel expedition, and where's Elgin? Doing unglamorous grunt work, lowering the flag to salvage rope, sorting through the diner's storage for anything about the man in yellow, an assignment, by the way, that Boyd's own team gave him. And in that storage room, doing the job he was asked to do, Elgin finds a photograph. A photograph with someone in it who looks exactly like Sophia. And what does Sophia, the man in yellow, say when she is cornered? She tells him that she can only take the form of people who have died in the township. And by the way, that is a massive piece of mythology that the show just fully uncovered with that. It's a big reveal in and of itself, but that's for a whole other video. My point in bringing it up is Elgin is the one who kind of discovered that and brought it to us audience members. I know that's not that big of a deal. That's me just like finding something to say, but it is kind of true. If it wasn't for him in this moment, we wouldn't have gotten that reveal. He did serve as somewhat of a vessel for that, but you could call it dumb, you could call it crazy, you could call it whatever. But honestly, I go back to this all the time. If I was in this town and I'm chilling with a group of people who are my age, 10 years younger, like people who are in a similar age bracket, and we're all bullshitting or whatever, and I see a picture that kind of looks like someone there, my first thought isn't going to be, let me run to Boyd. My first thought's going to be like, oh my God, isn't that crazy? Doesn't that look like you? Like, that's wild. Like, someone here looks like you. That's crazy. Like, my thought, if I'm being real, if I'm sitting down in Elgin's shoes, I'm not thinking to go run to Boyd, and I don't think any of you guys would think that either. The problem is, whatever you say, whether it's naivety or whatever, the town had one man holding the truth so the town just silenced him. The discourse has flattened this scene to Elgin walks up to the monster and gets killed. And I've been part of that. I've even said something myself to Nathan Simmons when I interviewed him. So I do get it. It is funny. It's a funny meme for sure, but it's not as crazy as people think. It really isn't. It makes sense from Elgin's perspective. It's not like okay, to be fair, it is stupid, but it is not that crazy to think that that's something someone really would do in that situation. If you think about it realistically, he's not exactly thinking that there is a woman in yellow, you know what I mean? He's looking for a man in yellow and signs of this guy. He's not thinking that the girl in front of me is an imposter. How could anyone think that? Again, this is the first season of the show where we are seeing the perspective not of our characters, of our crew. We have advanced knowledge. This is the first season that happens, and it makes Elgin look a lot more stupid than in reality he is for what he did. Anyway, after the confrontation happens, Sophia offers Elgin a deal. It's the same deal that she gave Clara. Help me and you go home. The sky is darkening and the end is coming, and she is handing him the one thing every single person in this town has begged for since the pilot: an exit. And I want you to think about who's receiving the offer. A man with one eye. A man carrying the guilt of what he did to Fatima. A man Boyd blackmailed into living a lie. If anyone in the township has earned the right to take the deal and walk away from this nightmare, it's Elgin. He says no though. He starts praying and he dies rather than serving her. It's actually a very heroic way for him to go out. Yeah, if you think about that, if you juxtapose that to Clara was just like, yep, I'm going home. Elgin didn't want any part of that. He wanted to help his people, and he wanted to be there to try to contribute. He didn't want to go home. I don't hate Clara or anything. Honestly, if we were in her shoes, I think a lot of us would choose to go home too, so I can't say I hate her, plus she's under the threat of the man in yellow. But in the end of the day, she took the bargain. She poisoned Fatima's remedy with her own blood. She disposed of Elgin's body. An innocent took the deal under pressure. The broken man, the one the fandom calls weak and gullible, is the only person in season 4 who looked the devil in the face, got offered everything, and just said no. And the faith thing. Elgin's belief has been treated like a punchline by parts of this fandom since season 2. But look at what this season actually does with faith. It gives us Sophia, an actual devil weaponizing belief as a costume, and it gives us Elgin, whose belief is the one thing in him that never breaks. Not in the bathtub, not under torture, not with his hands being crushed. The show built a false believer and a true one, and in the finale, the true one's faith held all the way to the end. I cannot call that naive. In this town, that's honestly the rarest form of strength on the board. Now that being said, like I have mentioned, I'm not here to say the criticism has zero shape to it entirely. It is true that confronting a shape-shifting entity that wears dead people's faces alone without telling Boyd, without backup, was a terrible plan, but it really was a terrible plan in retrospect. How the fuck was Elgin supposed to know? I do understand if Elgin walked that photo to the sheriff's station first, maybe everything changes. I'm not arguing that he played it smart per se, but I'm just saying I do understand it, and I think if we were in his shoes, we'd all be just as stupid as Elgin. What I'm more or less saying is the show repeatedly told you, explicitly and repeatedly again, why he would never do it any other way. In episode 2 of this season, he mentions to Boyd that the truth will get out. He says it right to his face under blackmail. And that's exactly what he said to Julie in the diner. Episode 9, truth in hand, he acts on it. That is the straight line. 3 seasons of a man telling you exactly who he is, and then being exactly that. You could call the decision fatal, but you can't really call it out of character. A character dying of his own defining trait isn't bad writing of a dumb character, it's the definition of tragedy. And the layer that makes it hurt is he died with the secret. Nobody in the township knows Sophia is the man in yellow. Nobody knows about the photo. As of the finale, the only living soul who knows the truth is Clara, and she's compromised, which means the town did exactly what Elgin said it would do. The truth stares stared everyone in the face, wearing glasses and quoting the book of Joshua, and there was no one left to believe it. Elgin's own line became his obituary. The township won. And one more thing I have to mention, look at the scoreboard that the writers themselves are keeping. With Marielle and Elgin dead, Randall and Bakta are the only named, at least that we know of, bus passengers left standing. The show has been quietly liquidating the entire season 2 class. Elgin's death isn't a verdict on his intelligence, it's a part of a pattern of this show discarding the arrivals it spent a whole season making us care about. But the reason he is the biggest wasted potential for me, obviously, is something that I haven't talked about in this video, and I'm going to be a little bit more candid and a little bit off script. You got my scripted version of this up to this point, but now I got to go a little bit off script here and just talk about why I think this is wasted potential. Elgin, to me, was very, very interesting. He was a character who seemed to really understand this place in a way that only Ethan understands it. He knows this place better than a lot of the people just because of the way he is. He's a man of faith, but not only that, he's had dreams of this place, and he knew that there was supposed to be a lake there and stuff like that, and it just doesn't get addressed, and that's how we end his character. That is extremely disappointing, and that is wasted potential. It is a small part, but I had to give all of the build-up into his character and do all of that just to essentially get to the point that this season, I think really, even though I think he went out in a heroic way, and I don't think he's as stupid as everyone says he is for making the decision he did. It is a dumb decision, but only in retrospect. All of that is to say, in doing that and in it being him, we are losing a character who I feel like could have been a real key to getting us home if everyone just had a little bit more faith in him and followed him the way Sarah followed him. I know that was the way the story was written. I don't know that I agree that it was the way the story was written, though. And I just want to close on the performance because none of this lands without it. Nathan D. Simmons had to sell wide-eyed sincerity in season 2, something genuinely monstrous in season 3, and quiet wordless penance in season 4, and he made all three feel like the same man. When I spoke with him, one thing that stuck with me is how deliberately he approached who Elgin is underneath all of it, even if we did spend a lot of that time memeing about the situation. The truth is, the township wins when people can no longer believe the truth, even when it stares them into the face. And Elgin was like the prime example of someone who understood that, and not a lot of people do. Some are starting to get it. I do find it a little interesting that Ethan is another one who also kind of gets that, but I digress. But the thing is, because Elgin believed it, it's the reason he had to go. And I think it's wasted potential, but I do like what they did with his character for sure. But I want to know from you, do you think Elgin is a martyr or do you think he's a fool? I want to hear in the comments, so definitely go down there and comment away. Also, be sure to like this video and hype it if you haven't already. It really does help grow this channel and these videos to more of an audience, because I'm sitting here recording for 43 minutes. I spent days working on this script, and it's a lot of work that goes into it for your entertainment, so the little bit of help you could do, just like subscribing, goes a very, very long way, and believe me, it doesn't go unnoticed, so thank you very much. But anyway, with all of that out of the way, thank you again for watching this video, and until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Peace out.